Okay, so my name is Allison McClurg, and I am a Bluffton student at the University of Bluffton, and I am currently a junior. I'm here with Tim Byers, who is my expert in the field of intervention specialist, and today I will be asking him a few questions. So the first question is, what is the most rewarding thing about being an intervention specialist?
Well, I think one of the many rewarding things about being an intervention specialist is realizing that you can prepare a student with a disability to be independent. You also can teach them more social skills as far as the academic skills, because that's where many of our special ed students stand out. Is they are socially unaccepted and sometimes socially inappropriate, and just need to be taught that, and taught that in different settings. So I think that the reward is sometimes small pieces or small bites, but there's always, if you work hard, you always see them eventually improve, and the more confidence they get, the better they develop. And yeah.
Okay. What is the greatest strength that someone going into this field should have?
I think we have to be as flexible as possible for a couple reasons. We're working with regular ed teachers many times now because of inclusion, and many times the schedule changes, and so we just have to adapt our schedule based on the larger schedule of the school. So I think flexibility, I think creativity is really important, and my students have heard me say this a lot, but I use the quote, if you do what you've always done, you get what you always got. And our students need different things. Our special ed students need different approaches. They need teachers that are willing to go out on a limb and try some things and be creative, and realize if it doesn't work, as long as nobody lost a limb or shortened their life expectancy, it was a good try.
What advice do you have for newcomers or younger new teachers?
Younger teachers in general, or younger intervention specialists?
Just any younger teacher going into the field.
Okay. Well, I think as we talk in my introduction to teaching class, I think we have to be ready for about any situation and prepared to deal with any situation. As an example, my son teaches at the middle school here in town, is a special ed teacher, and one of his students left a note on her desk yesterday threatening suicide, and then ran from the school. And so they had to, life changes all of a sudden, and you get your classes covered and you go find her. And she happened to be an 8th grader that has some really big issues in her life right now. And I think we're going to see that in all classes. We're seeing students and children with more issues than we've seen in the past years, because of our society, because of all the influences impacting our families and impacting our students. So just be ready for anything.
What challenges or difficulties might I face in this field, or do you have a specific time you encountered?
Well, I think yours are going to be the same as mine, and that the ones that really challenged me and challenged most of our intervention specialists are the behavior issues, the kids that either misbehave because they've never seen models or been modeled to have better behavior, or they're behaving to send a message. And that message is, help me, something's going on in my life, I don't feel good. Many times they don't know how to communicate their needs, and their communication comes out as poor behavior. And I think as an intervention specialist, we have to remember that yeah, it's inappropriate what they're doing, but what is the reason for that? And is there something that we can do to alleviate that in their life?
Mm-hmm. What strategies would you suggest for success in this particular classroom environment?
Strategy, I think individualizing students' work is the biggest challenge for as far as classroom challenges for an intervention specialist. We know that a classroom of 12 special ed kids will need 12 different plans. Mm-hmm. And that can be very time consuming and very overwhelming to a younger teacher until you get the hang of it. And the hang of it meaning that, yeah, maybe there's 12 different levels, but you can start at the same subject. You can start with the same dilemma or point that you want to make, but then modify it to that point. So not everybody's doing something totally different. They're doing similar things at different levels with different accommodations and just collecting as much as you can. My office is sort of an archive of whatever I've held on to the last number of years. This is year 45 for me in education. I don't have anything in here from my first year, but a lot of this is stuff I just hold on to because I know at some point one of the students here will encounter something in some of their field experiences and need something to take out there and try with them, and that's what why and how I've collected this. So I think good intervention specialists just see things and hold on to it because you know there's going to be a way you can use it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what is your job right now?
A professor of education. This is my 15th year at Bluffton. I'm a Bluffton grad from 1970 something, and my wife and I stalked and met my wife here, and that for the first 30 years I was a special ed teacher for 15 of those years, and then the director of special education in All-Glaze County for the second 15. And then during that, I had been an adjunct here at night. And at year 30, Bluffton made a discussion and made an offer that I come here full time. So I retired from the public school at 30 years, and I've been here now 15, teaching education and special ed courses.
What other types of, so having said that you already had different types of jobs, but they all revolved around special education, what would you say is your favorite, and what would probably be the best?
Of all of the things?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've all been my favorite when I was doing them. At one point I felt burned out at, I think it would have been year 10. I'd been an intervention specialist for 10 years. I have a regular ed license as well, so I requested at Ada School to go to regular 5th grade. And I loved the 5th grade, but I realized then I really missed the special ed part of my life. And so I did that for 2 years and then went back to special education and then got into the administration. So every one of them has been my favorite. They each have, any classroom, teaching classroom, it's my favorite because of the students. I have so many memories that I share a lot about my students. The biggest challenge for me as an administrator was I didn't have students anymore. Mm-hmm. And I would find myself just going to classrooms at times and just sitting and going in and doing things with them, or going out on the playground, or going on a field trip. And so administration had lots of things that I felt like we did well, and we started new programs, and we got funding, and we did lots of different things. But I missed the students. So I mean, each one's got. I've never done a job in education or a position in education that I didn't enjoy.
So was it difficult going back to an intervention specialist after being an administrator?
Yeah, a little bit. And just in that amount of time, things had changed a little bit. We know in special education, the paperwork is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And during that time, everything was switching to computers, and that was a big learning curve for me. Using any kind of technology sometimes is, but yeah, it was a little different jumping on a moving bus again.
And then my last question is, so have you ever felt like frustrated in the classroom with certain students like this, and how have you dealt with that, if you have?
Oh yeah, there's frustration a lot of times. I think the main thing that I would always had to do was just calm down before I attempted to deal with the problem. Sometimes it would be just stepping out in the hall, just standing out in the hall, shutting the door, taking a breath, and deciding what I wanted to do. Sometimes it was leaving that student in the room and taking everybody else out, and sending them to the library and going back in and taking away the audience from that student and deal with the issue. But I think it's just constantly, I think in education in general, for those of us that want the best for our students, we expect the best. When we don't get it, we're frustrated. Mm-hmm. And then part of that, we should wear a little bit of that as blame, because it may mean that we're not instructing that child the best way that they need it. So just being creative and willing to try an idea, and not allow students to use their disability as a crutch. You know, it is what you got, and here's how you're going to get around it. The frustrating thing about working with special ed students is that we know they're always going to be disabled. They're always going to have that disability, but we have the capability to give them ways to get around their disability and accommodations, and help them have enough confidence to go out there and try something and not worry about failing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you, Tim
You're welcome.
Byers.
You're welcome.